Shame, the intensely painful feeling or experience of believing that we are flawed and therefore unworthy of love and belonging. I am bad. I am a mess. The focus is on self, not behavior, with the result that we feel alone. Shame is never known to lead us toward positive change. And that is by Brené Brown.
Brené, always coming in with the
Mic
amazing lines. So yeah, this episode is going to be around shame, I think, is kind of the basis of what we're going to run with.
Yep.
We are continuing on through our album, The Story of Us, and we're taking each song and talking about why we did that song and the meaning behind it, because every song on that album is purposeful and is a part of our story in some way. Yep. And this one is no secret. It's Into the Unknown, Show Yourself, which are it's a mashup of two songs from Frozen 2. So total of 3 Frozen 2 songs on this album, because they all had super impactful meanings to us. So we're going to dig right into that on Finding Us, the podcast.
With Chad and Fallon.
Welcome back, Finding Us, the podcast. Thank you guys for joining us today. Got a little different setup going on if you're watching from video. I just told my wife, I said, one day we'll have a consistent podcast setup.
Maybe
I'm
not.
moving it all over my house for different reasons because, I'm a 7, and so I get bored when things are the same, and so I just am like, I gotta change it up. Yeah. But we'll see. Right now we're in my my office studio, a little corner of it, trying to make it work.
I'm sure it'll be different next time.
It'll be different next time, probably.
See.
Yeah, we'll see. Anyways, fun times. But, I think this is a more relaxed setting,
I do like it. It feels so much more comfortable.
I can just, lean back like I'm watching a movie or something, and
maybe
I
mic
will
right
watch
in front
a movie
of your face.
on the TV. And yeah, so it's like we're hanging out, hanging out with the people.
I like that.
Right? A little bit. Okay,
I like it. Yeah. It's very comfortable on my back, which is very nice.
That is the point. That is why I did it, for your back.
And I'm liking this light situation over here. Anyways.
Yeah,
let's move on.
Tarjay, everybody. Tarjay found this. I found this at Tarjay. I like to take credit when I find something furniture-wise because, my wife, gets all the love for her decorating skills, as she should. But every time I come through with something, I'm like, I exclaim it. I found this item. I did. Anyways.
Let's talk about the song.
All right. Talk about the song. Into the Unknown.
Show yourself.
Show yourself.
Into the unknown. Into the unknown. Into the unknown.
2 songs from Frozen. Obviously, the 2 big ones. Elsa, is parading in her dress and doing little moves.
Parading in her dress.
And singing about and all that fun stuff. So behind the song, I want to get into first before we get into the meaning of the song. So we recorded this song before the Story of Us album was ever conceived, was ever a thing, or even Finding Us as a duo was a thing. We were kind of talking about the idea of it at the time, but it wasn't a thing. So when we originally recorded the song, it was one of those Chad Graham featuring Fallon Graham situations. Boo. But when we were doing the album, I was like, well, we got to put this one on it. This one and Dear God, we had previously recorded before recording the album. And, but because they both just work so well with the theme of the album, Into the Unknown, Show Yourself, looking past, when it comes to the meaning of it, looking past what the actual storyline is, there's so much depth and meaning to it, which we'll get into, at least for me, that resonates with me. But musically speaking, we recorded it a while back. Let me think. This is the piano, guitar. I can't remember.
Yeah, I think Joey did the piano.
I think Joey did the piano.
And then we had Josiah add guitar to it later. Yeah.
Yes. Right? No. No, we did that to Dear God. Josiah added a guitar. Oh. This is just piano.
Okay.
I'm pretty certain. I'm sorry. Yeah, Josiah did piano on this one. I remember now. He just did piano on this one. We're there. Wow.
We're bad.
We do a lot of songs, guys. A lot.
A lot of
songs. So it's easy to get a little shuffled on
I would
the
have to listen
process
to
of
it
each
to know.
song. Yeah, this was piano and it was Josiah. This was actually our first kind of mashup that we did to get arranged together.
Yeah.
But yeah, so yeah, not much musically to talk about with this one. The arrangement was difficult in a way. I remember the songs being pretty different from each other. And I remember my process was, because I don't have the musical brain that Josiah does. And so
Yeah.
I remember I sat down and I arranged the song when it comes to like section going into section, lyrics going into lyrics, how to make them work, how to make the song flow and make it one song with two songs. And I pretty much just laid that out, having no key references or anything like that, and just sent it to Josiah with the lyrics and kind of a rough, vocal thing I recorded on my phone or something, and was just like, make this work. Like, I don't have that kind of, musician prowess when it comes to making it work in keys and all that stuff, because it's difficult, especially when you got two completely different songs in different keys. And the fact that even both of these songs go in a bunch of different keys.
Yeah.
This is one of those things that when I brought to Matt, our producer, he was just like, why? Like, there's so many keys. Why do you always bring me these Broadway things that are just crazy? So anyways, it was pretty complicated in that sense, but I think it turned out pretty well.
It did.
But yeah, it's one of those that I just took all the leads on, and I wanted my beautiful wife's face on it, and I wanted her vocals behind me on it, and to, because there's a lot of parts that kind of,
He's using me.
Yeah. Obviously, who wouldn't? I mean, look at the face. Just kidding.
My heart is just as beautiful. Thank you.
She goes to the heart. I don't know, she goes there. And so, yeah, made that happen. I arranged the vocals with both of us, and I love the way they flowed together. And
Yeah.
So I
It was
really liked
really
this tune.
cool. I remember the first time I heard it. It's just different, and I love that. I think that is what lifts some music above others, is that it's just different and it catches you and makes you feel. And
this one, this was one of our better viewed ones online. I mean, really, you do anything with Frozen on it, and
I know.
you're gonna get a lot of views either way. So
it's
it's hard to
Disney,
know
which
if it's
is
good
fun.
or not, because you put Frozen on it, and people are gonna want to watch it.
Yeah.
But, anywho, so
Yeah.
meaning of the song. So.
Man.
So I'll start off with my favorite lyrics of the song, or I'll kind of gonna go through the song and talk about how it connected with me, and go into some stuff around shame and inner child and all that fun stuff. So the first lines that I heard for the first time that resonated are, "Every inch of me is trembling, but not from the cold. Something is familiar, like a dream I can reach but not quite hold. I have always been a fortress, cold secrets deep inside. You have secrets too, but you don't have to hide." So when I first did this, when I did this song, I had just gotten done at my work at Onsite, which is a place where you go to basically do intensives, and you can, a bunch of different stuff. If you haven't heard of it, look it up. It was pretty life-changing for me, for sure.
As it should be.
As it should be. So a lot of the work that I did at Onsite was finding your inner child. A lot of my story is very heavy layered in shame. There's a lot of layers of shame involved in my story, and and as I'll talk about in a minute, like there's shame in everybody's story. Everybody has layers of shame. You were not born with shame. You are shameless when you're born.
Naked and exposed.
I mean, you're naked. You don't care. There's no shame there. You come out of the womb and you're just like, look at me, I'm all naked and I don't care, So shame is something that is built in time as you grow up. And I'll give some examples and whatnot. But shame is something that kind of piles on as you get older from different circumstances that happen in your life and in everybody's life. Some people, of course, have more traumatic stories that the shame is even more intense than others, and AKA they turn into addicts like me. A lot of deep layers of that involved. So I had the privilege at Onsite to work with a guy named Mark Pimsler. He's one of the main counselors on site, and he's known for his innovation and his creativity. He's literally created and invented so many different processes in trauma, healing and trauma and healing with shame trauma work, and which we did a lot of that there. And I called him a wizard. I've never been around somebody who was I've never been around someone who was that good at their job. You know what I mean? Like, I just remember just working with him and because I was, in a group of 7 other guys, or 7 total guys, and just watching him work. He was just like a surgeon, but it's like a surgeon for your soul. I mean, that sounds like a pastor or something, not like that, but you know what I mean? He was just like, when it comes to recovery and trauma work, I mean, this guy, he just he just knew what was going on in here just by like looking at you and observing you. And, you would just say stuff. I mean, I cannot tell you how many times throughout that week he would say something that was just felt like a life-changing light bulb. You know what I mean? The amount of times I've talked about that week, and I have so many things with like, one of the best things that happened, one of the best things I experienced, one of the best things I realized, and I found myself saying that for like 100 different things. So I'm like, one of the best things, and I'm just like, okay, there's a lot of best things, a lot of light bulb moments, and most of those came from things that Mark would connect and put the dots together for me. And there was just so much that I can go on to about that week. But anyways, Mark Pimsler, he's a wizard. He's pretty incredible at what he does. But so he went into this talk about shame, about how shame is formed and all that fun stuff. So I'm going to turn to and inner child work as well. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to turn to my journal here, which is where I was like trying my best to write down as many notes as possible to respond back to this. And again, I'm going to try to like say this the way, obviously I can't be Mark, but I'm going to try to, because I feel like this is just a message about shame I've never heard before, and I just want to get out and share. So judgment and blame is a highlight for shame. Okay, so basically, everybody experiences judgment or blame throughout their life. And the only kind of person who doesn't experience that shame, who doesn't have shame, is a sociopath, because they don't feel emotion. They don't feel that stuff. But that's it. Shame. So the definition of shame that he gave is: shame is the experience of one's false sense of self, disintegrating in relation to a dysregulated other, which I thought was really cool. So he gives a good example about kind of how shame is built. He gave a story about Johnny, about a kid named Johnny. Okay, he's a young boy. So he gave a story. So he's riding his bike around, and his dad always told him to, he always told him like, put your bike away. Don't leave it in the driveway. Put your bike away. His dad comes home after work one day, tired, whatever, and he leaves his bike in the driveway. His dad accidentally runs over it. He runs inside the house, and how could you do this? I told you, why can't you do this? Why can't you put it away? I've told you so many times, and that's shame. There's another layer of shame. So set this up first. What Mark did was he had a chair, and he had this giant teddy bear in the chair, and he had a whole bunch of scarves, okay? And so as he's telling these stories about Johnny, and he's just giving example after example like that, or he gets an answer wrong in school, and the teacher shames him for it,
right.
There's so many examples of shame that you can just go on and on to when you think about your own life. Anytime an adult shames you, that is adding a layer of shame. Or a friend. Being bullied, whatever it is, like that's shame. And so as Mark's telling this story, he's laying these scarves over this giant teddy bear on a chair, just laying these scarves over it. And what's happening as he's telling the story is these scarves are an example of layers of shame, and so as he's telling these stories about Johnny and throughout his life and all the things that are happening that is, adding layers of shame. He's adding another scarf, and eventually you can no longer see the bear. Like the bear is gone. The scarf, so many scarves have covered the bear. You can no longer see the bear. And so what he explained about that is, as you build shame, you have to create a public self. So that in time you end up building a version of yourself that you feel like protects you.
AKA false self.
False self, yes. If not, you risk being found out as not belonging.
Right.
Who do I need to belong? The bigger the divide, the more the shame. Belonging is connected to your DNA. If I don't belong, I don't survive.
Yeah, that's a basic human
we
need.
We all want to belong.
Right.
And so the more shame that builds up, the more you will protect that of wanting to belong by developing a false self, which isn't actually who you are. It's just what you've developed to feel protected and feel safe, and feel like you can survive, essentially. For instance, if you don't get a compliment, if you get a compliment, if your false self gets you a compliment, it just reinforces that fake public self and reinforces it and makes you feel like you did a good job, which just adds to, I need to do more of that. I need to be more of that. Yeah. And that's all the stuff that happens to all of us as we grow up. It's a bottomless pit and never gets to the core. And the negative things always go straight to the core. So like of course. Yeah. So it's just the positive things can build that up, and the negative things, of course, go straight to the core of who you are. Yeah. Shame requires transformation. And it's important to say guilt is different than shame.
Yes.
A lot of people will associate and say, I felt shame over this, but it's guilt and shame are different.
Guilt is, you're probably about to go ahead.
Well, you can go ahead if you want. Yeah.
No, go ahead.
I was just, it's to stop guilt, you stop the behavior. Guilt says, I did something bad.
Yes.
Shame says, I am something bad. There's a difference. My behavior does not alone affect my shame. Addicts only talk about the first step of the 12-step program. And so he gives a 3-phased approach to transforming shame, which goes beyond even the 12-step program, which is vital, I believe, to recovery. But there's also more involved, which he gives here. So the first, I'll go through these quick. But the first thing, recovery. This is the first phase called recovery. Recovering my ability to feel, not about stopping, behavior. different addictions, like heroin, pornography, whatever, on and on and on. It is because it's not about stopping those addictions. It's about, and so if I can't feel it, I can't heal. You can't feel what you can't heal what you can't feel.
Right.
If not for the addictions, you could die. And so those addictions essentially keep you alive. Like your addictions take the place of things that have been missing from your development as a child.
Right. They're maladaptive.
Shame layers. Yes. You use addictions to fill those holes.
Right.
And so oftentimes, and a big part, I said a big thing I got on site when you is learn and realizing, because it's all, realizing that these addictions have literally kept me alive. Without them filling the holes of the things that have been missing in my development and the shame layers I have, I literally could not be on this planet. I wouldn't be able to handle it. And so they literally kept me alive. And so the goal now is and where I'm at now is I have the tools to be able to survive without it. And I'm trying to heal. And all this process is healing and filling those holes with the healthy things that you need to survive, and not addictions. Right. The 12-step program is designed to treat a part of the problem, but not the entire problem. Number 2 is uncovering. Uncover, where you uncover all the layers, the shame layers. You talk therapy doesn't work as trauma treatment. Just talking in therapy doesn't work as trauma treatment. Yes. You have to do EMDR, brain spotting, etc. You have to do that trauma work.
EMDR, it stands for eye movement, development reprocessing. No, the D is something different. Shoot.
We'll figure that out later.
Yeah, we'll talk about it later.
Which, yeah, I did a lot of brain spotting for a little while, and it didn't necessarily work for me as well.
I just remembered it.
Go for it. Go.
Eye movement desensitization reprocessing.
Nice.
Y'all, I'm tired. I'm
You're
just
tired,
waking up.
yeah,
I'm sorry.
We're doing a morning podcast
We
here.
are.
And so I did brain spotting for a while. EMDR for me has worked the most. I've seen by far the most results. And what you do in that stuff is you literally go back to really key stories of the trauma, and you go back to.
But there's a
and
whole
it could be
process.
a lot. There's a whole process.
There's a whole process to it. Like
Yes.
it's a therapeutic process. Do not do it on your own.
Do not do
because
it on your own.
It's not.
You need a professional who's
Absolutely.
trained in it.
Yes.
Not all therapists are trained in
No.
it. Like you have to find to do this work, you have to find a therapist who's trained in EMDR or
Yep.
brain spotting.
Yes.
And we could get into all that stuff
Sure.
another time. But
Yeah.
but those are important. What are needed in uncovering. A person needs to be able to dissolve it. Trauma can be treated and healed. It can be. Therapy has to happen to you. You have to uncover and look at things from a different perspective.
Yes.
What's really going on in that event? Am I disgusting? No. Like whatever it happened where you feel those negative shame messages
Yes.
of I'm not enough, I'm unworthy, I'm disgusting. And there's a list of them, and everybody has shame messages that
Yes.
live with them today.
And they're unique to each person.
They're unique to each person. But those messages are a lie that got installed in you,
Yep.
in your childhood
In your,
as you
like,
grow up in your life.
programming.
Yeah.
That's really
And
good.
who was showing up? Oftentimes the kid, your inner child, was showing up. Or the kid was showing up, essentially. My responsibility is to look at it, not to blame it. If I don't heal over XYZ, I'll bleed all over my wife, my friends, my family.
Coworkers.
If you don't heal over this stuff, it will come out. And we call it like you will bleed on them.
And it will come
bleed
out
on them. It will
sideways.
come out sideways. It will come out somewhere. My energy and emotion will come out sideways. So number 3 is discovery. And this is, again, his 3-phased approach to healing shame and trauma. Discovering when we are what we were all along, who we were all along.
Yeah.
There's times when the bear, so he again did the example of the bear.
Yeah.
So he gave a great example of what a healthy relationship with your inner child looks like. So there's you as an adult, and then there's your inner child, which we're trying to find,
Right.
especially doing this trauma work. And like when you're trying to heal the shame, you are trying to bring your inner child along.
Out,
Like
yes.
it is so important, your inner, because that is who you are. Your inner child is who you are meant to be and who you are at the core.
Yeah.
And what I have done for my whole life is I have pushed that kid aside and been like, I don't want to see you. I don't want to speak to you. I don't want you to come out. Like
Right.
I've been covered in shame layers of protecting myself and being a certain way to
Right.
protect myself, feeling
Yes.
like it's survival because of my layers of shame. And so a great example he gave is, you have you and you have your inner child. And what a healthy relationship with your inner child looks like is when you're hanging with friends, barbecue, or whatever, you're with family, let your inner child come out to play. Like your inner child should be front and center. Like you are being you are being genuine, you are being vulnerable, you are having fun. And you're just being you. You are not worried about what other people think
Right.
of what you're gonna, of how you're gonna act and whatever. You are just being you. But that doesn't mean when you say we want our inner child to come out, there are times where you have to be an adult. Like
Yes.
you go to pay taxes or a many list of other adult related things
can
that
think
your
of
child
several.
should not be front and center on.
Right.
And so that doesn't mean you take your inner child and you push it aside and say, go away for a little while. You just sit your inner child next to you, maybe put a seatbelt on them and just be like, just hang out here for a minute. Don't go anywhere, but I'll be back. But just hang out here while I go take care of adult stuff. You know what I mean? And so he gave a great example on that. And that's what a really healthy relationship with inner child really looks like. Trauma is not just about what happened to you, but what didn't happen is really important. because oftentimes with trauma, you know, you instantly think of what happened to you,
Right.
but there's so much around that of things that should have been done around trauma when it comes to an adult should have intervened, an adult
Yes.
should have
Oh,
done this, an
that's
adult should
good.
have spoken to you about it, should have helped you figure stuff out, because most of us with these kind of traumas and giant layers of shame didn't
Yeah.
have
The tools.
didn't have the tools. We didn't have anyone who guided us. Nobody showed us the way. We were left to figure stuff out on our own, and which is obviously very confusing. But you don't. Also, it's important to know, it's because a lot of people have trauma and stuff that they either have identified have happened, or you know, or it's obvious that they have trauma in their life based off of what things throughout their adulthood. But they don't know what it is. They can't identify it or
Right,
remember.
right.
And so he says it's important to say that you don't have to name the wound.
Right.
You could still do this to work around it without actually knowing exactly what happened.
Right.
And what's crazy is what oftentimes happens in brain spotting EMDR is days later, all of a sudden these things will just come to you, which are
is scary.
really hard and scary, but very important, you know?
Because it's important to name it. Well, not even specifically name it, but if those things do come up, yes, it's scary and you can heal from it, which
Exactly.
is really important
Yeah, exactly.
to be better, different, change, transform, whatever the word is you want to put in.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
so
good.
That's the spiel. I just, again, just my time on site was incredible. And
Yeah.
I just wanted to share some of
Yeah.
stuff that Mark,
So I
who
want-
is a wizard,
Yes.
has talked about. But I know you have some stuff you
Well,
want
no,
to share.
I want to know because you like started with the lyrics and then you kind of jumped in. So
Yeah.
I want to know like how it like what lines like reinforce
Well,
the
let me.
shame.
Yeah. So I'll finish that then.
Yeah, yeah.
So I wanted to give all that so you know the rest of this
Got
and
it,
where
got
I'm
it.
coming from on
Okay.
this. So, the other lyrics on this that resonate in the inner child thing,
Yeah.
wanting to find your inner child and deal with shame. What do you want? Because you've been keeping me awake. Are you here to distract me so I make a big mistake? And I see this as me speaking to my inner child, trying to reach
that's
out. You know what I
good.
mean?
Yeah.
So again, in that concept, in that mindset of reaching out to your inner child trying to talk to you and find you, and you
Yeah.
trying to find your inner child, and your inner child being like, come back, you know what I mean? I want
Yeah.
to be in your life. So on that note, because you've been keeping me awake, are you here to distract me so I make a big mistake? Or are you someone out there who's a little bit like me, who knows deep down I'm not where I'm meant to be? Show yourself. And then then that's why I took the lyrics into the next song.
That's
Show yourself.
brilliant.
I'm dying to meet you. Show yourself. It's your turn. I'm ready to learn. So that last part is like me at the end of On Site. You know, show yourself. I'm dying to meet you. Show yourself. It's your turn. I'm ready to learn. Show yourself. Step into the power. Throw yourself into something new. You are the one you've been waiting for all of my life. Show yourself. So yeah.
That's really good.
That's where those lyrics connected with me, and obviously the working on site. As soon as I heard that, I just
Yes.
instantly went there in that song. And
Yeah.
I thought these two songs together, being able to put them together, would really tell that story really well.
That's
So, yeah.
incredible. I remember you came home and you were like, after dreaming this up and kind of as things were progressing, like you said, you sent it to Josiah. You were like, we're doing this, like this is happening. And so as we've talked about our album, there are songs that we, like there's 2 on there that for me, I was like, we're doing this. And even though they didn't really relate to Chad per se, we did them because it was meaningful. And so I feel like this is one of those songs for you that you were like, we're doing this. This is why it's meaningful to me and it makes sense. So that's why Chad took all the leads on all of it, because he's, it means a lot to him. And for me, shame is something that of course, that I've had experiences with, but I feel like I am just now being in a place where I'm able to name shame. And I feel like there's so much more for me to learn when it comes to shame, because of course we're human and we all have those shaming experiences. It's kind of innate in us. Like I feel like it's always been there, like since I can remember. That is just something that we feel I feel because I want to fit in and belong. And yeah, I mean, so much of what you talked about resonates with me. in my experiences that I could go on and on about. But Brene Brown has this quote that I want to read because Brene Brown she has done years and years of research on shame and resiliency. She has so many books out that are so freaking good. Anyway, so here's one of
language.
What I said, freaking.
I wasn't allowed to say that in my household. So, language.
Aw, I'm sorry. I probably wasn't either, but we're adults, so. Okay, so this quote really ties into what you were talking about with the shame, the scarves of the bear, and wanting to hide our true selves versus our false self being public or ego. Okay. Shame hates it when we reach out and tell our story. It hates having words wrapped around it. It can't survive being shared. Shame loves secrecy. When we bury our story, the shame metastasizes. That's by Brene Brown. Is that not like...
It's great.
Your eyes right now. It is such a good quote. I mean, and that with everything that we've learned and I've heard from you talk about in recovery about shame, it's right, like bring things out into the light, because that is what festers and grows the addiction is secrecy and ego and all the things. So I thought that was pretty good.
It's really good.
On that note, there's a couple quotes by Brene Brown, of course, about vulnerability and bringing things out into the light. Be vulnerable. Let yourself be deeply seen. Love with your whole heart. Practice gratitude and joy. Be able to say, I am thankful to feel this vulnerable because it means I am alive. And believe I am enough. You are worthy of love and belonging. So good, right? I mean, like, I am thankful to be alive. And that is what the shame, I mean, it's the cycle if you go through addiction recovery, if you, learn about the ritual and the cycle and all of it, which we all have that, by the way. You don't have to be an addict to have the cycle, because I have it. But it is being able, when those things come up, to not numb it. That is humanity. That is our human side. And when those things come up, instead of choosing whatever it is to numb it, Netflix, Hulu, shows, bread,
work,
cake, sweet. We could go on and on. Work, yes. Instead of choosing those things and pushing away our humanity, being able to say, hey, this is what's going on. This is what I'm feeling. Here is my humanity. Don't layer on the shame or false self, and speak these things out, not only to yourself, which I'm learning to do, speak them out to, for me, my higher power, who I call God, a trusted friend, a program member from support recovery groups, a counselor, a pastor, church friends, and with safe people. But speak these things out, because that is what makes us alive. Instead of numbing, which deadens us. That deadens our humanness and our heart. And I'm passionate about it. It's just really, it's really great.
Yeah, and it's important to say, like, it's easy to just talk about with people your strengths. You know what I mean? It's easy to put on this wall, this layer, this false self. It's easy. Any of us can be anyone we want to be. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that isn't you. Like, it's easy to do.
And at the same time, if people really sit and get down in it and sit in it, it is exhausting. It is easy because we've trained ourselves into that. But let's be real talk.
It's easy, but
exhausting.
it's exhausting, yes.
Because at the end of the day, you're not just being you. And maybe you don't know who that is. And that is the beauty of recovery. For me, I have been able to spend time trying things on, is what we say in recovery language. Try something on, not physically, but metaphorically. Paint something, see if you enjoy that. I mean, whatever it is about, try it on and find out who you are. And that is so many times I have heard, well, I'm for the first time at whatever age, you can be 20s, 30s, 60s, finally figuring out who you really are. Because for me, I've gone around people pleasing for so long and putting on the false self. I don't have to do that anymore. Sure, I can choose to continue down that path. But what life is that really? And it goes back to the, am I really living, and am I alive for who I am and the things that bring me joy, or even the things that don't, the things that are unpopular. I mean, there are several things that are just unpopular, and that is where the tension comes in. I mean, this is so layered, but that's where the tension comes in of like society and the expectations, and even our friend groups, the expectations, and having an unpopular opinion, and especially a group of people that you want to like you.
Yeah.
That's so
Because again, it goes back to our
difficult.
DNA.
Right.
Is wanting to belong. Yeah.
Absolutely. And that is so difficult to speak up and say, no, actually, I don't want to do that. Or I disagree. I disagree with what you're saying. And it is okay that we have different opinions. And if it's not, then maybe it's time to get a new friend group.
Yeah. It's sad is so many people will live their entire lives without ever getting to who they really are, because it's easy unless you hit absolute rock bottom. And for a lot of people who get into recovery, it takes rock bottom for them to be like, finally, my way of doing things isn't working. And it takes hitting rock. Sometimes it takes hitting rock bottom several times until you get to that surrendering place of doing the actual hard work. But so many people will live their whole lives having no idea. And you'll feel like everything's normal because this, you've done this your whole life. Like this has become who you've made. Your false self has become you, even though your inner child is still there, and who you really are meant to be is wanting to come out. But, because, so you listen to something like this and it's just like, well, I mean, I haven't hit rock bottom. And so having the awareness that there's something missing is what's so difficult to make happen. It is difficult. Especially when like some rock, but there's no consequences to what you're doing that you are very aware of. Right. I promise you there are consequences, and it's affecting everybody in your life in some way. Because again, it's coming out sideways in some way. And so it's just sad to me, and I'm thankful that I have hit rock bottom. I am thankful that I have gone through that hell, because I don't think I would just live my whole life being this false version of myself and never really experiencing full wholeness, and feeling the feelings and allowing myself to feel all the emotions, and be who I am. And then finding those friends in this process. Like I've lost friends in this process because I was a false version of myself. And when I had friends that were a part of that. And since recovery, I have gained new friends and a new community of people who love the version I am, who love the real version of me, the good and the bad. That's the important thing, is they love the bad as well. It's not just the good. Because being vulnerable doesn't just mean you need to just say your weaknesses and just talk about bad things. Being vulnerable also means celebrating the things that you have succeeded in, and celebrating that with your friends, and talking about the good things that are going on as well. Because like I was saying, it takes bravery to be vulnerable,
Mm-hmm.
and it takes bravery to talk about weaknesses.
Yeah.
It takes and to do this
Of
work we're
course.
talking about
Yeah.
takes unbelievable amounts of bravery.
Yeah.
It is easy
So
to just
much
coast
courage.
through life being who everybody else, being who you think everybody else wants you to be,
Yeah.
and trying to fit in and belong everywhere you
Yes.
can. It's easy to do that.
Yeah.
But I promise you, it is taking a toll on you. It is taking a toll on the people around you.
Yes.
And it takes some serious work to even have that awareness and realization of what's actually going on.
Right.
And most people don't want to do that work.
Right.
They're just content with
Yeah.
living their lives in that place, and they'll never experience the full wholeness of letting your inner child come out.
Yeah.
And be who you are.
Yes. That's really good.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's a couple quotes. As you were talking, there was something that came to me, so I was like trying to find it. But so last quote by Brene Brown. Well, actually, the last two. You are imperfect. You are wired for struggle, but you are worthy of love and belonging. I forgot to read that. That kind of coupled with the vulnerability quote read from earlier. But there is something that you said that made me think. You were saying like you have to get to rock bottom, and I instantly thought of this quote, and it's to me it's compatible, but it talks about being brought to your knees. And so being brought to your knees while also understanding that other people have like trauma or instances of hitting rock bottom in their story. And it talks about the compassion and having the compassion and the ability to remain open to those experiences with other people, which I think, like you said, it's easy to coast. It's easy to put blinders on, to be in denial, to just continue with the work hard and play hard. And
Hard, play hard.
all
work
of that.
hard.
I mean, it's just easier to do. It's easier to not sit and do check-ins and like talk about, really sit even with yourself and with your feelings. Anyways, it says every single person has a story that will break your heart. And if you're paying attention, many people have a story that will bring you to your knees. Nobody rides for free. Nobody rides for free. And I think that is what a lot of us try to numb. We try to be in denial that these things have happened because we're trying to maintain this free ride through life. And it's just not possible.
Yeah.
It's just not.
Yeah.
Last thing that I wanted to say about shame, something that we've talked about and have learned in counseling is that there are healthy and unhealthy sides of core feelings. And so the unhealthy side of shame is the toxic shame. It is feeling inadequacy, saying to yourself, I'm a mess, I'm not good enough, I'm a bad person. I mean, whatever it is, whatever the shame message is that you tell yourself. So that is it's toxic identity is what it is. That's the unhealthy. The healthy side of it is having humility and having empathy for others around you and having empathy for yourself and grace. And I think just going back to the humility piece with that quote, it's about being in a place of humility and being able to take ownership of what's going on. And that not like, oh, I did something wrong, that's guilt, but taking ownership of this is what I'm feeling today. And it's okay. It's okay that I'm feeling whatever it is, and just letting it be and just kind of riding with that.
It's great.
So, yeah.
Love it.
Yeah.
Well, that's our episode, y'all.
Yeah.
Just getting straight into the nitty gritty.
It's good.
Fallon and I are heading off to the beach tomorrow for a few days.
It's
Much needed
birthday
getaway.
celebration.
Birthday celebration.
I think you forget that.
For her birthday. I forget, she celebrates birthday months,
Of course.
and I'm all like, what?
Yeah.
And so she reminds me every day whenever, especially we have, something disagreement or something. She's like, but it's my birthday
It's my
month.
birthday month. I get to do what
it's
I
my
want this
birthday
month.
year. What about that? What if I start throwing,
That's
it's
a
my birthday
little
year.
much. That's a little much.
Anyway, we're heading to the beach. It's going to be
Yeah.
awesome. We just had my mom and my aunt came up to visit this past
Yep.
week, which was great. I hadn't seen her in over a year, I think, because, of COVID being a big reason and, other circumstances being big reasons. And
Yes.
either way, it was great to see her, great to see my aunt. They were awesome, fun. Anything else update before we close off?
My family has the Rona, so that's not fun.
Yeah, your mom got tested positive.
She did.
For
so
COVID.
That's been tough.
Yeah.
Yeah. But she's doing well.
She's doing well.
As
from
well
what we
as you
hear.
can be
Yeah.
with the Rona.
Yeah. We have not been around her. No one's getting infected
No.
through our microphones.
No.
Promise. I know we're not wearing masks, but we're in our house.
Yes.
We're not in public.
Well, thank you everybody for being with us and listening. Shame is a really difficult thing to talk about. It's not fun. So if you're still with us, thank you.
Thank you all.
Because it's not fun.
I love y'all. We will see you guys next week, hopefully,
Next
or
time.
next couple weeks, or whatever. Whenever we can get them out.
Yeah.
So, love y'all.
Thank you for joining us
This has been Finding Us the Podcast.
with Chad and Fallon.